Hey, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the profound spiritual wisdom of Shaykh Nazim al-Haqqani. We're going to unpack his really practical advice on how to find our true purpose in a world that is just full of distractions. So let's jump right in.
So Shaykh Nazim kicks things off with this really powerful thought. Time, it's like a river, just constantly flowing, and it's pulling everything along with it, including our lives. I mean, you can't stop it, right? So the real question isn't how to stop it, but what are we going to do with the time we have?
All right, here's the roadmap for our chat today. We're going to start by looking at the world of illusions we live in. Then we'll get real about the enemy within. After that, we'll talk about two pillars that can change everything: respect and compassion. We'll see how that leads to the real goal, a pure heart. And finally, we'll land on the honorable choice that's in front of every one of us.
Okay, so first up, let's really get a handle on the core problem. Shaykh Nazim gives this incredibly sharp diagnosis of our modern world and the spiritual challenge it poses to, well, all of us.
He has this incredible way of describing our world. Think of it like a giant marketplace. But what's for sale? Mostly just distractions, empty desires, and illusions. It's kind of like you're stranded in a huge desert, and everywhere you look, you see what looks like water. But every time you run towards it, it's just sand. You end up exhausted and spiritually thirsty, just chasing one mirage after another.
And this is where he makes a really important distinction. A lot of us, we try to fix that spiritual thirst with what he calls mind products. Just collecting facts, data, book knowledge. But that stuff ends up being a heavy load you have to carry. True wisdom, or heart products, is completely different. It's not a weight at all. It's this powerful fuel that actually carries us.
Okay, so if the world out there is this big desert of illusions, then what about what's going on inside? Where's all this thirst really coming from? The teachings suggest the problem isn't just out there, it's also deep inside each of us.
Well, Shaykh Nazim points to one main culprit, the ego, or what's known as the nafs. He calls it the wild animal within ourselves. I mean, what a description, right? Imagine a caged lion that just wants to break free from any kind of discipline or rules. That's the part of us that's always pulling us toward things that are ultimately harmful.
And if you look closer, you can kind of see the ego's whole playbook. It all starts with pride. That was the very first sin. It always sides with negativity, and it's a master of deception. It'll take something harmful and put a beautiful label on it, making poison look like a sweet drink. And what's the bottom line? It's a saboteur. It's actively trying to stop us from doing the incredible, honorable work we were put here to do.
So we've got a world of illusions on the outside and this enemy within. Sounds pretty tough, right? So how do we even begin to fight back? The good news is Shaykh Nazim gives us a very clear, very practical solution.
It really boils down to two simple but incredibly powerful pillars. He says that a truly meaningful life, an honorable life, is built on these two foundations. First, having the absolute utmost respect for the Creator, and second, showing endless compassion for all of creation. It sounds simple, but the depth in that is just immense.
Now you might be thinking, endless compassion for everyone, even for people who are, well, difficult? And that's a fair question. The key is in how you see them. The teaching is to look at every single person, not for their flaws or their actions, but as a unique reflection, a unique manifestation of the divine. Every person carries that honor.
And there's this amazing story that just makes this whole idea click. The great mystic Rumi once met a priest. The priest bowed to him out of respect, but then Rumi bowed even lower than the priest. And why? Because he wasn't just seeing a man in a different tradition, he was honoring that divine spark, that divine secret that he could see inside that person.
Okay, but what's the end game here? Why does all of this, the respect, the compassion, why does it matter so much? It's not just about trying to be a good person. There's something much deeper going on.
See, the whole point isn't just about ticking boxes or putting on a good show for everyone else. It's about a total inner transformation. The real goal of living by these pillars is to purify your heart, because at the end of the day, our inner state is the only thing that God is truly looking at.
And this is a really sobering thought that comes from the teachings of Imam al-Ghazali. Just imagine this. You spent your whole life making sure you look good for the world. But the very first question you're asked is, you looked good for everyone else, but what did you do for your heart, for me? I was only ever looking at your heart.
And that just hammers the point home, doesn't it? It's not going to be about your job title or your bank account or how many followers you had. The only thing, the only currency that has any value in the end, is the state of your heart. The question will be simple. Where is your heart? That's the final accounting.
All right, this brings us to our final section, where everything we've talked about comes together in the choice we face, every single day.
Shaykh Nazim uses this metaphor that's just so powerful. Our life is like a cassette tape, and it's always recording. Every single thought, every word, every action is being captured. And one day, that tape is going to be played back, in the divine presence, with no edits, no cuts, no deletions.
So what this means is that every single moment is a choice. Are we performing honorable works, filling our time with things that support the divine kingdom, or are we just shopping in that market of evil, following whatever our ego wants? Every single thing you do is like casting a vote for one kingdom or the other.
And it's so easy to feel small, right? To think, what can I, one person, possibly do? Well, this ancient parable has the perfect answer. A tyrant, Nimrod, builds this gigantic fire, and a tiny little ant is seen carrying one single drop of water towards it. Someone asks the ant what it's doing, and it says, "I'm running to put out the fire of Nimrod." The action was tiny, but its intention, that was everything. It had chosen a side.
And that right there is the key. That's the whole message. We should never, ever say, "What can I do?" We must never underestimate the power of our small, sincere actions. Just like that ant, our efforts matter, not because they're going to change the whole world overnight, but because they declare loud and clear which side we are on.
We have to remember, the teachings say that every single one of us was created with this incredible honor to be a representative of the divine on earth. And the choice is ours, every day, whether our actions are going to live up to that honor or betray it.
And look, if you ever find yourself tempted by all those shiny distractions, just think about this story for a second. There was a king who lived for 1,700 years in just absolute pleasure and luxury. He was then dipped into hellfire for a single second, just one. And when he was asked what he remembered of his life of joy, he said nothing. That 1 second of reality completely erased a lifetime of illusion.
And so, we end where we began, really, with a question for all of us. Time is running. The tape is rolling. We are the ones in charge of the recording. So the only question left is this: what will your life's cassette record